Welcome to the Amen Podcast, where all men from all walks of life, backgrounds, and ages can obtain the tools on how to become alpha men from a Christ-centered perspective in today's society. Here's your host, Jimmy Greer.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Amen Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Before I introduce my next guest, I've known him for about 5 years now. And basically, he and I don't want to say came up because I was really coming up. And when I say come up, meaning basically I was improving, getting better, was really one of the mainstays as a workout partner. And just all around great motivator, encourager. But to be honest with you, I'm going to pay him a compliment right now. I think that there's a lot of people out there that, you have different definitions of humbleness or humility, right? But I've never came across a person, especially, and I really do consider you an alpha male because, man, when you walk in the room, you're inviting. There's nothing that says, hey, back up, I'm going to trash you. I'm not going to be about helping you become better or anything like that. And so, to me, I've really, come to enjoy that about you, as a workout partner, as another dude, as a man, just, really, exemplifying that humility, because it's a rare find in today's society. It really is. And again, on Amen Podcast, what we're trying to do is just get you guys tools, so that when you get in that rock and a hard place, you no matter what season or what stage you are in life, that ultimately you're going to have that tool to draw back on it. It might be from the show. It might be from, something that we're suggesting to you. And that's really the reason why we want to do this is we want to make, our men stronger in society, in our homes, in our churches, in the marketplace. And so, I want to introduce Joe Perry, and I don't mean like the Aerosmith version of that that gets confusing all the time. Joe's gonna really talk about his. We're gonna talk about a lot of different stuff, but we're gonna get into it with really is his marketplace background, what he does, how that mental fortitude that he has, and that drive and that push and how that carries over into his leadership with his wife, which we'll talk about as well. But one of the things that Joe and I do, and people just kind of get, when they're around us, it's like, it's not, and I don't want to say this in any way, shape, or form, like, it's prideful. It's not a show. It's just, we don't care who's around us. So when we're working out together, Joe, go ahead. I think it was, what was it? The Seventh Wonder.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
One of my favorite things.
That was priceless.
I think it was like probably the second time you and I met in person. I walked into the gym and I looked at one of the other guys. I'm like, bro, he's got vascularity in his shins. Like these legs are like the seventh wonder of the world right here. Now there's the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and then there's Big Jim Greer's legs.
I think the other day I told you, this is so stupid, is that I was like, why basically, God created the seventh day, he created it for rest. And I said it was because it was after working out with Joe that he was so tired that he had to rest. That's how bad it was. That's really how hard the workout was for Joe. And then last night I was literally sitting in my living room, and I was like, it just came. I'm not kidding you. It just came to me, and it was in regards to sailing. I think there was a sail. It was some cologne commercial, and there's like a sailboat or something. And I said, when Joe Perry goes out to the ocean, he doesn't cast the sail; the wind does it for him.
Yes. Hey, I'll take that one. That's outstanding. Well done, sir.
And I think the other one was one time Joe Perry, he wrote a short story or / haiku, and it's now United Nations policy.
Done. I'll take that to the bank.
But anyhow, me and Joe, we go back a little ways, and just really appreciate the guy, just a stud of a man. But tell me a little bit about growing up. You grew up in Sacramento, or you were born in Sacramento, but grew up in Fresno, right?
Yeah. So both sides of my family are from Fresno.
Okay.
And then my mom and dad met at Fresno State. And then right before I was born, they moved to Sacramento. I grew up in Auburn of Sacramento. And then I would spend all the summers with my grandma and grandpa here in Fresno. And I just loved it. So I moved here, let's see, when I was 17.
Okay.
And moved in with grandma and grandpa, and I lived with them through college.
Wow.
And that's where Cookie and I met.
Okay.
And next year's our 20th.
Cookie's your wife, correct?
Cookie's my wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And next year's our 20th wedding anniversary.
Man, congrats. 20 years, man. That's a mile marker. That's a big one, this day and age with families, falling to the wayside left and right, divorce rate, I think what is it? It's like 52% is the average rate in and outside of the church. So when I think about that, I'm like, to see that, and you're a little bit younger than myself, but to even see that in your generation is even more rare, because what's been the model? The model is mom and dad, they don't like each other. They don't like how life's going. Let's call it quits, whatever. And it becomes the staple and the acceptance in society really is what it does. So, again, we're looking at trying to get these tools to you guys out there in the audience and just really trying to help you to understand. Me and Joe are regular guys just like you. We're nothing special. We definitely don't have it figured out. We have figured out some things, though. We understand that if we bang our heads on the cement enough times, you know what? Cement's going to win every single time. I'm just going to walk away with a cracked head. So why not listen to some other folks? And I'm not saying necessarily listen to me or to Joe, but maybe we might be able to offer you something that, when you're in, and I was just saying this earlier, was, when you're in that hard season of life, no matter what it is, whether it's business or whether it's working out, we want you guys to really just have that tool to reclaim, that masculinity that we all need, that our wives need, that our leadership requires of us, especially in today's society. So let's get back to your coming into living with your grandma and grandpa, and then you're going to college. And I just learned this piece about you just literally I think it was about a month ago. In where was it, Virginia Tech? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do at Virginia Tech?
Oh, this is kind of cool. So by education, I'm a chemist and a mathematician. My professional life today is neither of those things.
Okay.
But I did a undergrad research stint at Virginia Tech one summer, and my project
just for funsies.
It was something to expand my resume, and I thought I wanted to get a PhD in chemical engineering, so that was kind of the next step. And I was my research project, of which I was just a tiny piece, was with the U.S. Navy for the SEAL team. And what it was for SEALs, instead of having magnetic mines that they would fix to the side of a ship, was to develop basically an underwater crazy glue to glue mines to the hull of the ship. And so, that was part of what my research project was.
See what I'm talking about? You just you thought you knew a guy, and then the guy's off in the corner just going, hey, you know what, by the way, what did you do? Oh, one summer or 1 year, I just kind of took some time off and went to this school, and now I got crazy glue that now, Navy SEALs use as a device to, blow up something. I mean, that's just insane. That is incredible. I always knew you were intelligent, but what was funny was, and you sold this to me for like the longest period of time, and you went with this joke, and I really thought this was a legitimate thing about you was, so we're at a friend of ours' birthday party, and it was the very first time that I ever met you. And so we were just kind of get to know each other. And we were, everybody's kind of going around the table because there were some new faces there. And so they said, well, what do you do? And you're like, well, I won the lottery, but I didn't win like all the numbers, but I won enough, so I'm just kind of like, and I was like, this guy, he won the lottery? And so literally for like months, I'm sitting here and I'm like, and you didn't even let the cat out of the bag. Like you let me go with that. And I was going around, I was going around the gym and I was telling people, hey, Joe, he won like a part of the lottery. He's like, really? Joe? I'm like, yeah, legit Joey. I'm for real. This guy did this, And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, when I found out the truth about it, I was like, wow, dude, I'm usually a pretty good judge of like, the BS factor, right?
Mhm.
But I'm sitting there thinking, I'm just like, this guy totally sold that to me. He sold it to me hook, line, and sinker. I was tripping out on that, dude, for like literally probably about 3 to 6 months.
Well, it's true.
It is true.
It is true.
I thought that was a gag because people told me, they sit there and they go, hey, you know what? Joe didn't win that. I'm like, are you sure? I go, dude, this guy was like really told me this. I honestly, I believe it. So tell me about that.
Oh, so let's see, is 2012.
Okay.
And my wife Cookie wasn't feeling very good. She's like, hey,
Okay.
you mind hitting up the liquor store on the corner and give me some Sprite and some saltines
Yeah.
and whatnot. And so I did, and I got a mega ticket. And then like 2 days later, I got an email from a lady that helps me out, with my work stuff. And the subject line just said, somebody in your hood has a winning lottery ticket. Is it you? And so I it's an ABC News web link. So I click on it and I'm like,
Yeah.
huh, I was there at that time. But I wasn't the only person that was there.
Right.
So it wasn't the whole thing. And I'm not allowed to say this around Cookie anymore because she's heard it a zillion times. But no, I hit 5 out of 6, and one more number was 176 million.
Oh,
one more number.
What the heck? What are the odds? No, you're a mathematician, so I don't want to, go into that because you'll totally blurt it out because you're smart like that.
But
So-
it goes to like people that say, or friends that would tell me like, hey,
Right.
the lottery's a tax for stupid people. And then one of those people, I walked into their office and I slapped the ticket on their desk and I'm like, bam, sucker.
Here's my stupid card.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I always ask this, and I'm not going to, ask you to divulge anything, but I always ask people this question when I'm getting to know people that I don't know. And I said, okay, so let's say, I do the breakdown. So let's say that you have the mega lottery, right? And it's at, $100 million, right? And this is more of a question to find out because the true nature of people really come out because the first answer that comes out is really what they, believe and support and what they want to be about, right? And so I'll ask them, and I said, so after your taxes, you're going to do the payout, right? Because it's the best way to go and get the taxes, fully taken out right out from the get go. So my thinking is that, people don't really fathom like when you win the lottery, like it's it's a chunk of change, right?
Mhm.
It can either change your life. And I think there was a statistic that I think that they said like 90% of all lottery winners nationwide are broke. And I was like, 90%? That's insane. So again, people, where your heart is, where your mind is, and really what you're going to put your money towards can be one of those factors as far as like what you're going to do with that. And I was just wanting to lead that into, for you, your business and what you do. Go ahead and tell people what you do for a living.
I'm a residential mortgage broker. So
Okay.
I worked at Wells Fargo Bank for 19 years.
Okay.
And then I quit on April Fool's Day 2021 because I thought it'd be funny.
Of course.
Right? And,
Makes total sense.
It was funny there after, you can imagine after almost 2 decades of working at one specific place, like my BCC list on my resignation email, there's a zillion people on there.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
when I hit send,
You sent all.
Oh yeah. And then I started getting like the, haha, Joe, that's funny, or April Fools, or you think you're so hilarious. I'm like, no, seriously, dude, they're going to take my laptop in like an hour. It's been real peace. So yeah, I work for myself now.
Okay.
So I know one of the things you and I were talking about is like discipline, the importance of discipline, and discipline in, your marriage and your relationships. And
Right.
so going from working in the bank and kind of running my own show there to now being my own person by myself. It's been an adventure, but that's where your mental fortitude comes in.
Yeah. So let's jump into that a little bit. So, you're working out of home, right?
Mhm.
And you're doing the mortgage business. Now, does your wife do the same thing or does she do something different?
Cookie actually works for Wells Fargo too.
Oh, she does. Okay.
We took two totally separate career paths and ended up right next to each other.
Was she in the send all email?
She was in the BCC just because I wanted her to get a kick out of what I sent. Yeah.
Right. So, and we'll get into how you met Cookie and how that whole thing developed here in just a minute. But again, I think that men tend to find we're fixers by nature, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're fixers in every single area of our life, and we're only going to fix according to what kind of tools we really have as men, right?
Mhm.
And so again, this is what it's really about is that I want people to understand that, by no means are we saying that we have anything figured out, but if this helps you, then that's fantastic. That's what the goal is, to be that stronger, that best version of yourself. I know that's cliche, but it really is. It really is a true statement. And so, how would you say your workout disciplines? Because I've seen you kind of go through, some. I don't want to say necessarily ups and downs. I would say more so of changes. Like for instance, once you got a goal, because recently, and I'll let you go ahead and discuss that, but you got into DECA, which is an arm of business for Spartan, and pretty brand new. I think 2-3 years old now is where that's at. I think about 2 years old. And so you get this goal, and then you start what does that look like for your training? You've got your business going, you got your marriage going, you're trying to balance all these different things. So what does that look like for you?
I don't ever show up and try and fly by the seat of my pants. So I bought, and I'm also a visual person. So I bought one of
Right.
those little miniature calendars.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I'll there's a number of days I'll have 2-a-days. So in the morning I'll write down, was I diligent? What did I work out? How was my diet that day?
Yeah.
Did I have a beer or not?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And then in my entire life, I've never actually physically trained for anything.
Okay.
So this DECA event, now basically 2 weeks ago, that's the first thing I'd ever done.
Wow.
So I had been working with a nutritionist, so I'd made sure I'd stay on with my sleep.
Right.
What do my macros look like?
Right.
Paula Warrior Fitness, get me dialed in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. But yes, you have seen me go through the ups and downs, and I'll keep this 10 seconds. I've told Cookie, I was like, I want to get in the best shape of my life. And it's right when I get there, something happens. I ended up in the hospital once, and then I had, they had to fix my intestine. So I was out for a number of months and then had to recover from that.
Wow.
And then, COVID hit, and then it's well, are you supposed to go to the gym or not? And then I was like, I guess I don't. And then recover from that. And then, the DECA thing, try and recover from that.
Right.
But
so,
it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Oh, it's any kind of goal setting, any kind of workout program, dietary, physical, mental, whatever it is. Once you set a plan in motion, I am a true believer of this, is that once you set that goal to something, because I would always ask some people when we were in the gym together, and I would ask them, so what are you training for? And they go, I'm just training. And I go, I don't mean to offend you, but that makes no sense to me. I understand that you're just training for your health, but why wouldn't you want to put the hard-earned money that you're putting into your workout? Why wouldn't you want to try something that puts the uses of your training, into motion? It just didn't make sense to me. And I'd always, of course, I was that guy. I was the cheerleader for Spartan, and it was like, hey, we got to get this. You got to get after. I want you guys to do this with me. Build that community within the gym. But once you set that goal, what did you see your mindset change take place, and how that kind of poured over into your professional life, how it poured over into your marriage, if you can touch on that.
Sure. No, that's a really good question. So I'd start with, I'm severely asthmatic. Since I was a kid, I had to have a breathing mat with a hose attached to it and dragging it around behind me and whatnot. So my lungs are super scarred. So when it comes to my limitations, it's not my strength or really my endurance.
Right.
It's gonna be my breathing. So in setting goals for myself, like I know my body's gonna give out at a certain point, but can I keep moving the needle?
Right.
So as far as, how does that translate into my work is setting certain things I need to do during the day. And it doesn't mean like I need to make 20 phone calls. And if I don't make 20 phone
Sure.
calls, I sucked. It's more of these are the main things that I want to hit on.
Right.
And then I just make sure that I do it. Same thing at the gym is I want to continually push that needle forward. And then as far as my marriage goes, Cookie's my best friend in the entire galaxy. So that,
Makes
not only
sense.
is she my wife, but she's my person. So I don't, there's no goals. We're very fortunate to both work from home.
Mhm.
So not only do we get to work from home, but we get to be with each other all day, every day, which is awesome.
Dude, that is it's rare. Number one, fantastic. I'm such a fan of healthy families, healthy marriages. Especially like I mentioned earlier, in today's society, we don't see that as much as I'd like to see. So let's kind of talk about how. So you're in the mortgage business, and we're seeing that climate change pretty quickly.
Crazy.
It's you know 4 months ago it was like a rocket, right? Joe and I live in the Central Valley in California. For all the listeners, so the California market as a whole, when the rest of the United States was going nuts, there was movement, there was people buying homes, and lending money. And then there was this, hey, we know we're getting close to the top of the hill, and then we've got to embrace ourselves for the downward spiral, right? So how many? So let's say this before the decline per se. How many contracts for loans were you writing? Would you say on average in a week?
Oh, in a week? I mean, for years, I would say my pipeline, which is like the number of projects I'm
Right.
working on, would always be around 40 to 50-ish
Okay.
in different stages.
All right.
And like these days, it's probably like 8. It's
Right.
And just for context, and we're here in the greatest city in the United States, aka the Paris of the United States, Fresno, California. But I have my license in 13 different states.
Oh, okay.
So when I share my experience, it's not just what's going on in Fresno, Clovis. It's what's
Right.
going across the.
So when you go from those big contrasts of writing a lot of paper to very little, right? So, people I think they have that opportunity to sit there and say, I either choose to freak out or I choose to settle myself. One of the things that this is a really scary prayer to pray. And I do not suggest this for people, because God is listening and he will actually show up and answer your prayer. And so 2018 going into 2019 end of year, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I really want to up my game, mentally, physically, spiritually, all these different areas. And I said, Lord, legit prayer. I said, Lord, teach me how to become comfortable in discomfort while remaining focused on you. Are you ready to become the strongest version of yourself, Alpha Men? Meet Paul Watson, a military veteran. Paul knows the importance of physical fitness, mental and physical toughness, and the role it plays in one's overall health and well-being. That's why I'm proud to recommend Warrior Fitness, a fitness program designed to help you become the strongest version of yourself. Whether you're looking for elite military selection training, including endurance and strength training, group classes, individualized training, and personalized diet plan development, we're here to help you achieve your fitness goals. Our experienced trainers understand the value of hard work and perseverance, and they will work with you to push your limits and achieve new heights. Join our community of warriors and take on a new challenge that will help you to build strength, increase your endurance, and improve your overall health. With Warrior Fitness, you'll discover a new sense of discipline, resilience, and pride. Sign up today and let's take on the challenge together. Check them out at their Fresno location at 8039 North Cedar Avenue, Fresno, California, 93720, or on the web on Instagram and Facebook. Or if you want to just give them a call, go ahead, 559-242-2570. Stay alpha. Now, some of you out there that are listening, you know me, and then there's everybody else that's going to learn. Is that I had no idea what the preface of that prayer was going to lay a foundation for what I was going to go through in the next very quick seasons of my life. I would have a roller coaster of achieving some cool moments physically, in racing, and then my marriage fell apart, and I got divorced. And so I pray that prayer, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, really, God, this is what we're doing now? Are you serious? Okay. Can you give me this in a little less increments, because this is a lot to handle, right? Mm-hmm. But honestly, that prayer kept resonating over and over and over and over again. Because here's the thing, Joe. This is what I think a lot of men miss, and I know I've missed it. And have I completed in learning it? No, it's still in a process. But my point I'm trying to get to is that if we are learning how to become comfortable in discomfort, God never called us to be comfortable. If you look at all his disciples, he never sat there and said, hey, by the way, it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be picnic. Always be with you. We'll always have everything we need. The necessities, right? We're going to go on really long hikes. It's going to be lots of fun, right? But they were put in really difficult situations that were very uncomfortable. They were beaten inches of their life. And so when I think about that, and I understand that prayer was really in line with what I was experiencing in those moments, in those seasons of my life. And so I think how I want to kind of dovetail this is that for you, so when you go from, financially, you can't take time to go deposit the checks because they're coming in so fast. So how did you settle your feet per se and really settle in for that discomfort moment of realizing, okay, I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to make some adjustments. What did that look like for you?
Ooh, good question. Well, number one, it's all about focus, right? My focus is always on the cross and Jesus. And, Cookie hears me say it a zillion times that a day, the big man's got a plan. I don't, she doesn't hear me say the word God very often. I always call him the big man upstairs.
Yeah.
The big man's got a plan.
Yes, and, he does.
Whether it's, I think of Job and how faithful Job was.
I just love that story.
Is that whatever the challenges that I might have, whether it's, things slow down financially, or like I was sharing with you, like I did talk to the surgeon today about a couple different things.
Yeah.
Like it pales in comparison. I know where I'm going at the end of the day. Yeah. I'm on his clock, and life is good, man. So I think I maintain a really good attitude, and I just stick with the fundamentals. Kind of like whether it's, my profession or being in the gym, it's all about the basics. Just hit the basics.
I think you're one of those guys, and I could be wrong, but you're just one of those guys. It's like, it's always steady Freddy. It's always, smooth as fast. You're always just like the even keel guy. It could be raining, nails and chainsaws, and you'd be like, get a helmet. It'll work out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Do you look outside when it's raining? This is insane. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. And the same expression is which you actually did win the lottery, part of it, you're the same person. It's not like there's just, there's no roller coaster ride with you. I would like to learn how to tap into that in that sense for myself, because it's really rare to see in other guys, because most guys we either all or nothing, we're we're achieving, we're rock star, or we're down in the, down at the bottom. Everything's gone to crap, right? Um, so so you basically stay steadfast in your walk with God and just, offering your prayers and just really stepping forth and saying, hey, financially, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I trust you,
Absolutely.
I really do. And I love that about you. So now what does Cookie do for
She's a credit underwriter for Wells Fargo Bank.
credit underwriter? Okay. Got you. So you you turn to Cookie and you say, honey, you know what? The numbers are changing. The climate's changing. God's good. He's going to provide, right?
Yep.
Right. I think, and I don't want to speak for you, but I know for myself, like when you have that ability to look your partner in the eye and say, hey, listen, I trust God in this moment, even though none of this makes sense right now, and it's going to work out. That, my friend, right there is the leadership and the mental fortitude and the spiritual fortitude and the discipline that we as men need to exude. Like for instance, a lot of people will say the first thing if I say Joe Perry, I'm not kidding you, verbatim. I love Joe, right? Because you attract that because you exude that for people in general. You really do. How much more important is that to your wife in that moment of, hey, we're going to switch some gears here financially because, we have to make some changes. So what does that look like for you and Cookie?
Well, it's important to have, like in life, to have direction.
Mhm.
And it's just, the direction just changed. If anything, it's going to make for a really good story in a year or 2 years or whatever
So
it is.
true.
So whether it's, health challenges or struggles with jobs, like shoot, I would say of my counterparts, I talked to 3 people, friends I've had forever today that all got laid off this week.
Oh, wow.
So but again, it's where's your head at?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Yeah.
You and I know at the end of our road where we're going to end up.
Exactly.
So I've got hope.
It's a dangerous thing, isn't it? You got hope. I've read and I've seen some stuff on YouTube, but don't know how true it is on YouTube, but I definitely know, Jesus is still in the miracle wonder working business last time I checked.
Yep.
And it's those moments when you look back, and your testimony is like, hey, we got tested in this moment, but look what God has done, which is really provides that hope for you. I've got Jeremiah 29:11 tatted on my arm. And what's funny about this, Joe, is this is really crazy, is that, especially if you really want to be an alpha male, proclaim the name of Jesus and that you serve him and find out exactly how many people will hate you instantly. And I mean, genuinely hate you for what you stand up for and what you believe in. So I've had more people talk to me about this tattoo than ever me going out on the street and sharing God's word with people. And it's crazy. It really is. And so they go, hey, that's really, man, your artwork, that's really nice. I said, thank you. And he said, and they look me every single time. This is legitimate. Do you know what it means? And I said, well, do you want me to quote it to you? And I've never had a person go, no, I'm good. I rattle it off, and I give them different variations of, of versions,
Can
right?
you tell me what it is? I don't recall off the top
Jeremiah
of my head.
29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord, plans to help you, not to harm you, but to give you a hope and a future, right? So when you think about that, I've got hope, right? If I have hope, I have everything, right? But this is the beauty part about this, is there's a plural word in there. He says, I have plans, right? And not a plan. Because if God's only got one plan, I just don't think he's got, right?
All right.
I think he's got a couple more in the toolbox, in the filing cabinet than I could possibly imagine. But when I look at that and I say plans, okay, plan A didn't work out, right? Finances got attacked because of, changing in the market, loss of job, like you were talking about your friends. Okay, well, what about plan B? Well, shoot, plan B didn't work out. I guarantee you that my plan when I was 28 years of age and I said, man, if only I can be 52 years of age and single and divorced and trying to refigure out life, then I made it. Man, awesome. That's a great plan. No, I didn't have that plan. That plan was altered and chosen for me. You know, there was things that were out of my control. And I don't want to go too much into that story because that's going to be, we could spend an hour on that one by itself. But I would definitely say this is that when I look at hope and I look at the plans that God has for me, it really impacts my environment when I speak that out, you know, to other people. And so, like you said, you know, that hope factor is really key. Now, I guarantee you, because I've been in the same spot that you've been in, and when you were in, let's say, I'm going to guess and say that middle to latter part when you were doing your DECA event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I know you're a physical beast. You've got the mental fortitude. You just keep going, man. What's the Blue Train? The cartoon show for kids.
Thomas
the Train. Yes, you're Thomas the Train, dude. You're freaking Thomas the Train. You just keep going, man. You're a happy little dude, just going down your track. I don't care. But the suffer factor had to really suck at that point because you were starting to get into it. You know, you're heading towards that last quarter part of the event. So tell me what that was like.
You know, it's Cookie actually a couple months ago was asking, she's like, what do you think about like when you're working out and when you're dying?
Yeah.
Because
we died together so many times.
You know, I pray a lot. I pray all day. And I pray while I'm working out. And I think
that's amazing.
Christ's passion. And so, and I like consciously while I'm working out, and as difficult as things might be,
right?
It keeps me centered and it keeps me motivated. And so physically I'm headed in a direction, and mentally and spiritually I'm headed in a direction at the exact same time. So it's not comfortable, but
no.
But to answer your question, that's what I do when I'm exercising.
Yeah. So when you're going through, what was the hardest event for you where you really had to pull on that strength and say, you know what, God, I've gone this far. You know, you're asthmatic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do. I think you were telling me that you got like 30% of your lung capacity.
It's tiny. Yep.
Savage.
So I would say of any of the things, because I did the mile version of the DECA, like the run is rough for me, and I'm not even running. I'm like jogging, sometimes speed walking, but that'll put it on me. I would say the one that totally gets me is probably the dead ball or the farmer's carry.
So some people are familiar with the farmer's carry and the dead ball, but some people in the audience have no, like, you know, gym, racing, you know, Spartan background whatsoever. So what does that look like when you're actually doing it?
Farmer's carry. I mean, for the gentleman, it's 60-pound dumbbells. You're doing 100 meters. So pick up the dumbbells and run, walk, however you want to do it, you know, to get that part done. And then the dead ball is a 60-pound ball that literally doesn't bounce. It's completely dead. And you've got to like pick it up and drop it, you know, over your shoulder 20 times.
So it's like a medicine ball kind of thing.
And it's a
ball. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't sound like a lot until you do it. And
how many times you have to do it again?
20.
20 times you're smashing that thing on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've been at it for what, about, this doesn't sound like a long period of time, but probably what, 12, 15 minutes, right around there at this point?
Probably at that point. I'm about the 15-minute mark. Yep.
So for all you men out there listening to this, it may not seem like a long period of time, but if you've looked into anything to challenge yourself physically and mentally, DECA is definitely it. It's like CrossFit on steroids. It really is. I have friends that are involved in, obviously Joe, but other friends in it as well that are really and genuinely world-class athletes. And those people have actually told me how grueling it is because they operate at very high levels of efficiency in their training and their performance and whatnot. But to really go through that and be able to draw, you know, from the Lord on that is, dude, it's so key.
Mm-hmm.
It's so key. I had that moment, that mount on high mountain moment, and I was talking, we didn't really get into it, mutual friend of ours and our coach, uh, Paul Watson. And so one year, and I told this, I tell a story. I call it the unstuck story is what it is. And I'll be pretty brief about that because I want to, make sure we're good on time. So, so one year I think this is 2018. I go to Big Bear, right? And the funny thing was about it is every time I'd come back, and tell my story about what happened, how grueling it was, dude, you're always there encouraging me to get better no matter what.
Yep.
No matter how good I did or how bad I did, it didn't matter. So that first event, I thought that I was trained, but I really was unprepared. I was ill prepared.
That's a good word for it.
I mean, it was Run DMC. It's just illin', man. It was really bad. It was really bad. So I'm going up this mountain and I get to the top and I'm fully like cramped up in my right leg. I'm throwing mustard at it. I'm begging people for little things of water, some goo. I mean, it's hot. I'm now like 2 hours into the race when I'm on the top of this mountain. So you start out at 7,000 feet and then you ascend about 2 more roughly. Meanwhile, you're running uphill. When I mean running uphill, you're running up Black Diamond, ski runs. And you're doing it, either, climbing, swinging from something, pulling from something, still running. And so I get to the top, man, and I'm so trashed. I'm like, this is garbage. The trail master that basically designs a trail sends me or sends everybody up and down this course from the top to the bottom, and I'm not even kidding you, at least 12 times.
Oh.
So we called it the Spartan hike that year, is what it was. And it was a beast. And so we're sitting there and we're just like, you could hear people, and I mean literally you could hear them halfway up the mountain and then people down at the bottom just complaining, bitter, mad. They're like, this is stupid. I paid all this money to speed hike up this mountain. My legs are locked up. I mean, this is just dumb. I came here to run. And I'm like, you know what? Hey, let's just suffer together. We'll get up. We'll get it done. So we come off the mountain and it's our last time. And so we get to open up a little bit because there's a little bit of run because you're running down the ski lifts, the ski runs, you're just flying. So you get down to the bottom and I failed two obstacles. So that's 60 burpees.
Oh,
cramped up, tired, completely exhausted, angry, hungry, dehydrated, everything. I mean, just.
And you're 2 hours in?
Huh?
You're 2 hours in?
Yeah. Now I'm coming. I'm now coming down off the mountain. So I'm just about done is what it is. So 2 hours later. So we're coming up on a 4-hour mark. Right. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this is the dumbest thing that I've ever done in my life. And at that time, they've changed the race requirements now, but it was roughly about, 13, it was a little over half marathon. And so I'm sitting there just angry at the world. And I'm like, Lord, man, I don't want to do this anymore. This is really sucking. I mean, this is brutal. And, just the still small voice just said, just keep going. Just keep going. And I'm like, okay, so I'll keep going. So I fell an obstacle. I do 30 burpees and it was like the longest 30 burpees.
Yeah, I can imagine, dude.
In my life.
Rough.
I was like eating. Okay, this is how dehydrated I was. So, when you get that white cottony part in the corner of your mouth?
Yep.
So the dust goes and collects in that area. Ugh. It's so chalky and it's, the sun's been up for quite a long time now. So now the heat's coming in and you're like chewing this clay chalk and it's disgusting. Right. And so I go on to the next obstacles and then basically fail another obstacle. I'm like, come on with this. Are you serious? So I bust him out, and now I'm just angry. I'm just beyond, like, I've ignored my pain. Legs are still locked up. They're garbage. Everything's gone to crap at this point. And so I'm just finishing through, and I stomped, literally stomped across like a little kid, throwing a fit. I was so mad. I was like, I didn't run across. I just stomped. This is dumb. I'm never doing this again. And literally within 30 minutes, after I start getting some liquid and different, I think it was like what is that? I forgot what that drink's called. It's Armor. It's not Under.
Oh, Kobe Bryant's drink?
No. Armor. It's Armor something. I forgot what it's called. Anyhow, it basically it hydrates you pretty quickly when you're dehydrated like that to that level. And so, mind you, dirt mustard taste is pretty gross. Then you throw down the drink, and then you start to kind of rejuvenate yourself. 30 minutes later, I'm like, I'm going to do this race next. I just about cussed out the race course, and people were actually cussing out the trail master by name because everybody knew he was. You piece of, are you serious? This is stupid. Who designed this? It's going on and on. The short end of the story is that so I come back the following year. I got even more serious about my training, my discipline, and my walk with God, and I really tried to up my game. And I almost sub-2'd that race.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So when sub-2'ing that race, so the nugget, if you will, in that story is that when I was at the top, again, it wasn't up, down, up, down. It was a race. It was running. I'm running with my friends. I'm running against people that I've competed against for years. And so I come up on the Olympus wall. Do you know what the Olympus wall at the gym? Okay. So it's super crazy angle, and it's only like 6 inches of chain. It's got a circular hole grab, and that's it. Right. I'm exhausted, still cramped up because I cramp a lot, even though it does not matter. I could water my body for a week and I'll still cramp up. It's just one of the things I've been plagued with. So I go into it, and I'm hanging on this. There's about 4 more stops that I've got to clear. And I start to feel my upper body give away. It's like, it's gassed.
Ooh.
It's done. Right. So then this is what happens is the bell is within reach. And so if I swing, I can hit it because I've got big old ape arms, so I can, swing and grab it. So I swing myself off, and I barely grazed it. It didn't even do the, tink tink noise,
Right.
in it where the inner part of the bell rings. And so the referee saw me, he saw me hit it, and he was like, I saw you, we're good. But when I come down on my right knee.
Ooh.
And I pile drive that thing into the ground. And I just went to the ground. I was like, oh, it was a, big dramatic moment. So then what ends up happening is the referee on the side goes like this. He was coming over to check on me. Well, the rules at that time, I don't know if they changed now, but rules at the time stated that if anybody touches you or basically looks like they're exchanging anything, then at that point you're disqualified from the race. That was the competitive rules at that time. So I look at the guy, I said, hey, don't you dare touch me. Dude, I've come this far. I don't care if I have to crawl down this friggin' hill. I'm finishing. I'm finishing. You understand this? I said, you know what? I got a lot of things going for me. I got a lot of things working against me, but I'm going to finish. So I go, hey, I didn't mean to yell at you. I don't want to get disqualified. So I head down this hill. I get up, check, make sure everything's working right and it's functioning. That later would actually cause me to have knee replacement is what it is.
Ooh.
So
I was going to ask, is that what led into it?
It did. It started the initial parts of the tear, and then, all kinds of crazy stories with that. Long story short is when I'm on the Olympus wall, this is the question that I ask. And I'm literally like, you have that moment when you're in DECA, or you have that moment when your marriage is going through trouble, or you're having that moment when your business is not in the A game that it used to be in. And you go, what am I going to do? Because whatever you're going to do is what I've realized this, Joe, is that you make those choices. They're going to define you, you know?
Well said.
And so, the question I asked myself was this: am I going to allow this moment to define literally the rest of my life? Because if I drop right now, what am I willing to quit later? That terrified me more than anything. So I obviously cleared the obstacle. I go down and I finish this race. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of other parts of the story that I could tell, but I'm not going to go into it. But I guess ultimately why I share that, elongated story is that when you're in your most difficult moments of life, no matter what aspects, if it's business, like what you do for a living or if you're facing a health challenge, like you literally wake up with a health challenge every single day, right? You don't just like turn that switch off. But for yourself, you have to choose. I'm going to do it, even though it's going to suck. I'm not going to feel well, right? I can actually potentially kind of harm myself if I really go too far, right? So do you have to kind of balance that as well, would you say?
Oh, for sure. The analogy I use after the DECA event for me was the new Top Gun movie is one of my all-time favorites.
That's a cool movie.
Dude, I saw it 6 times in the theater.
6 times?
It's so awesome. But I would equate my own experience to like when Maverick is in the Dark Star at the beginning of the movie and he's trying to hit Mach 10 and then he hits Mach 10 and there's the gentleman in the control tower who's like, don't do it. And then he just says,
was his name Hondo? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
It's Hondo. Yeah.
And then Maverick's just like, a little bit more. Boom. And then like everything went sideways.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what you're getting at. Yes, I have had those just a little bit more. And then
you push it. Yep. And then all of a sudden the brakes fail and the wheels are coming off and you're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. Things go sideways in a hurry.
Right. So what would you say to this one is, because when you look at, there's a balancing act, that's going on when you're working out, keeping your relationship with God on point, and then your marriage as well. So what does that look like for you and Cookie when you guys come together? You guys have those really, really hard times. So do you go to the feet of Jesus and say, hey, Lord, I don't have this all figured out?
Every day.
Every day.
It's
so you don't wait for the storm to come.
No.
Fantastic.
It's kind of like when you and I call him the big man. When you and I get to see the big man in person, what are you going to do? Like, I can't wait to like give him a hug and a high five. Yeah. And I'm excited about when that happens. So no, it all starts with your relationship with the big man.
Yeah.
Then it goes to your marriage. Then it goes to your work. Then it goes to the gym. So every day.
It's so true, man. It really is. I think that, when I think about the aspects of men today, and I think we were touching on this a little bit earlier, was about we're definitely fixers, right? Hey, Alpha Man, if you guys are looking for some really cool gear, I just want to promote this company because I genuinely believe in it. It's called Seek Jesus. I've got their hoodie and I really enjoy it. It's nice and comfortable. It's got in really big letters on the back, Seek Jesus, a little bit of letters on the front that say the same thing. If you're looking to make a statement for Christ and you want to spark that conversation right off the get-go without even having to crack your Bible, I want you guys to go check them out. Check them out on Instagram or on the web. You can find them at www.seekjesus.co. Check out their clothing line. They've got hats, they've got shorts, they've got beanies. They've got everything you need to properly rep Jesus. Go check them out at www.seekjesus.co. One of the biggest things, I don't know about if you do this, but I do this. I don't know if you men and listening today, if you do this as well, but it cracks me up, and I'll be the first guy to tell you. You're probably going to judge me, but I don't really care. I couldn't build a paper bag. God just did not give me. Oh well, there's YouTube. Okay, yeah, there's YouTube. But you know what I always find about YouTube is is cool and all, but the reality is there's always like, it's kind of like the missing screws that didn't come in the bag for the assembly of the desk, right? There's those fine tuning moments where a guy says, oh, you should probably sand this a little bit more, maybe apply a little less, account for some under or over measurement that you need to do. It never tells you that, and that's where that experience comes into play, right? So when we get into that fixer mentality, if it's our car, you hear a noise in your car and you're going down the road, right? And all of a sudden you're like, you lean in, right? Do you do that? I do
for
that.
sure. I had a nail in my tire the other day and I was like, literally roll the window down. Is that what I think it is?
So obviously you don't work in a tire, and I wouldn't be surprised if you've done that before, but you don't work in the tire industry. You're not a tire technician.
I am not. No.
And you're not leaning in going, what is that? I think that, there's so many cross-referencing areas that really kind of fall into each other. But I think this is the key thing that I want to get to our men today is that, when you hear that, and this is in respects to our marriages, right? To being that stronger leader, that strong husband, right? Is when you hear that noise, you have an opportunity to lean in and go, what is that? Then the second moment has to happen in saying, what am I going to do about it? Right? Because obviously we know what happens if you don't do anything about it. It's going to become catastrophic, right? So talking about the hope of Jesus, right? Talking about that mental and physical, all these different aspects wrapped up into one. But if we neglect that area, like we could very well in different areas of our life, if we neglect that one area after we've leaned in and we've identified the problem, and then we don't do anything about it, I think that's where the tool bag really needs to excel, really needs to expand itself, right? Because I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't have that one figured out. But I do know, and I was looking into this book. It was funny. I never even knew this book existed. It was like I lived under a rock, and I found it literally right after my I'd found out that infidelity was taking place and things of that nature. And I was always of the mindset, basically, that if you're the type of person that is willing to leave me, I will let you go. Does that mean I'm ignoring God's word? I'm not going to try to work it out. No, I'm not saying any of those things at all. You should try to work it out, but you have to have two people that's willing to work that out, right? So, I'm sitting there asking myself these questions, like, how am I going to fix this? And the still small voice of God just leans in and says, I want you to honor me in this. And it's not going to look like anything that you've ever done or you've ever experienced before. But this is how we're going to fix this, right? So I pick up this book, and this book is, and guys, I'm going to just tell you right now, if you're not a reader, I get it. I understand it. It's so difficult for me to read something that does not drive me. It just doesn't. But I force myself to become a reader. It's so vitally important. And so 5 love language, I know it's touchy feely for some of you guys out there, but I'm just going to tell you this. Newsflash, your wife is touchy feely. Okay. She just is. If it was a guy, obviously you would be attracted to that, but you're not. You're attracted to a woman. So when you dive into those 5 love languages, it became a tool. Like I would literally, Joe, I would see the things that I was unaware of. And then I saw the things that I was doing. And then there was like this whole different area of like things I didn't even know existed. I was like, what the crap? Who's been holding out on me on this thing for ages or whatever? So guys, I strongly suggest, looking into 5 love languages and really identifying what your wife's love language really is, because that's a way that she internalizes love from you, what she needs. It's not about what your perception is, I mean, let's be honest with guys. We're pretty basic, simple creatures. Show up with food, naked, we're good to go, right? Right? I mean, that's pretty
basic.
That's pretty basic, right? You would think. And women are laughing in the background if they're listening to this, going, oh, that's so crazy. That's not true. Men are so complex. Honestly, we don't require a whole lot, and I can't blanket statement that for everybody, but a majority of guys are pretty much that way. So I say that is a tool, to really help us as men to say, you know what, I can lean on something that's greater than myself, lean on another guy. Getting that guy group around you, those sharpening tools, I think.
You are who you associate with.
Exactly. So if you put broccoli in your system, what's going to happen? Obviously, you get pretty farty, but the reality of it is you're going to be eating healthy and you're going to get the nutrients from that, right? People are the same way. What you allow into your sphere of influence is going to impact you regardless of what you think or what you say or what you read. It's just fact.
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that has been a theme in what you've been sharing that I think is super important is one of the best characteristics of being a leader is being a good listener.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And, I think, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm definitely not an expert on women. There's a difference between a woman being heard and you trying to fix it versus her just, being heard. Right. I don't know if you do this and tell me if you do, but I mean, I used to do this because I learned pretty quickly like how this was working in it, not because I had the 5 love languages in me, but because of my ministry background and just understanding that when a woman wants to be heard, does she want me to fix it at that moment per se? So I would raise my hand, like I was in class, and I'd say, am I just shutting up and listening, or am I helping you with this? Because if you ask for my help, I'm going to give my opinion, and then I'm going to expect you to do something about it, right? But if this is just one of those moments where you just want to be heard and you want me to shut up and listen and say everything's going to be okay and genuinely mean it, I'm that guy. Does that happen for you, or what does that look like for you and Cookie?
We've been together for 24 years now, so we basically anticipate each other's moves, and but it's all about communication, right? Sharing. I don't have secrets. She knows where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, minus that she's got GPS on you, on your ankle. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because one quick thing, and I won't keep you on this one, but we're talking about tattoos. So I have 2. I have my.
Is it the starfish?
No.
Oh, SpongeBob SquarePants.
Dude, you're not supposed to That's next week. It's not yet happened. No, actually, I went to Cookie and I have the same doctor, and I got her EKG. And he was like, there's HIPAA laws, Joe. I can't give your wife's medical records to you and whatnot.
Right.
And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
She's in the parking lot.
Yeah.
She knows what I'm here for.
Yeah.
But so I have her EKG tattooed across my chest.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then on my leg, I'm a big graffiti fan. I love walking around Saturday morning, 6 a.m. alleyways downtown Fresno with my camera,
really
just taking pictures.
Oh yeah.
Totally dig it.
Yeah. I've seen it.
So I actually have my leg is done. And one of the in Latin it says "Pray for us," which is part of the Hail Mary. But my quick backstory about it is, if you could go to heaven for just a second and you could ask for one thing, what would you ask for? Knowing you had to go back immediately, what would you ask for? And that's my answer. And
I was gonna say, are you asking me? Because that's a great question. Yeah. That's a great question.
So I have that in Latin tattooed down my leg.
That is awesome.
And at first, when Cookie's and it's all graffiti.
Oh, okay.
And when she was, asked, why that? I wanted it to spark a conversation, kind of like Jeremiah 29:11. Mm-hmm. I want people to ask, hey, what's up with the graffiti all down your leg?
What's that about?
Mm-hmm.
But that totally is suiting for you because, it doesn't surprise me one bit that you are that kind of artistic, because you are very artistic and that very creative in that sense. But, again, very, very diligent, very intelligent guy. So what I'm going to do is we're going to wind down here and change gears here in a minute. What's your favorite scripture verse?
Oh, all right. So it's funny because I didn't actually know the actual book, chapter, verse.
Right.
But
right.
It's where when Jesus said, you shall love your Lord, your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul.
Yes, sir.
And the second commandment is to love others the same.
Yeah.
That's basically my mantra in life.
Yeah.
And those are from the big man's mouth himself. So
Yeah.
got to follow
Quoted.
it.
Yeah.
Quoted.
So do you think it said, the 10 suggestions, or was it 10 commandments, or was it the 10 best self-helps, or do you think it was a commandment?
Absolute commandment. Yeah. Yeah.
I love there's conversations I have with other people, and they'll try to dissect, New Testament, Old Testament and whatnot. And I'll get around it and I'll say, okay, so let me ask you this. I just want to point out this one thing. So, there was this moment, it was pretty epic in the Old Testament. It was basically, you ever heard about the story of Moses? You ever heard that one? Yeah. The 10 commandments, that's in there. So if you throw out the Old Testament just because you only accept the New Testament, then really you're throwing out the 10 commandments. I don't think he's going to approve of that.
Yeah, we could go down this rabbit trail, but I mean, you would be throwing out Jesus's heritage, which
Exactly.
we never.
Exactly. Old Testament supports the new in so many different prophecies, promises, and whatnot. But
I'm proud of you, man. This is a lot of fun.
this is a blast.
Yeah.
This is a blast. I'm
And-
so glad that you've agreed to, be a part of the show and just really bring that perspective of what it looks like to be disciplined, be working out, hitting the grind every day, being that leader in your home, being that priest in your home, to your wife, and helping us guys really understand what we can do in those situations. And I think that if I've heard you, if anything, today, is that without hope we have nothing. Without Christ we have nothing. Don't wait for the fire to ring the bell. Turn to him before it gets bad. Have that continuity, that consistency, with Christ. Would that be agreement with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He is your best friend and should be your best friend.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Not like you check in whenever you feel like it or when there's a problem.
Very true. I think for the most part, I've heard this said to me is that, the true mark of a leader is that if you were inviting people to go on a hike with you, and you turn back, this is the mark of the leader. If you have people following you, obviously you're a leader, but if you don't, then basically you're just on a long walk by yourself.
That's very profound.
Right.
I like that. Yep.
Right. So always do the check back with your wife. Hey, you still there? You still tracking with me? We all right, honey? We doing good? Have that honest conversation, the communication we were talking about,
Yep.
so that you can be stronger, so that she's stronger, because whatever's happening in you is going to impact her, because you guys are you're not two halves. You're a whole, you're one.
Yep.
Right. So, man, dude, this was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you, Joe,
So
coming in today, and thank you for sharing your stories, man.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I definitely want to be back for round 2. So
Yes. No,
I know you have
we're-
a long list of people, but
yeah,
I want to be
we're
back.
definitely going to have you back, and obviously you're a central part of the show. You'll be hearing Joe, his voice. He's Joe, the voice, Joe Perry, the voice. So again, all you men out there, man, stay alpha, and just remember this. If I was going to say anything, just be on your knees, man. There's no shame in your game if you are submitting yourself before God, because you realize that you don't have it figured out. Because I'll be the first one to tell you I don't. So, man, be well, stay alpha.